Hi, my name is Amrita and this is my booktube, and today is Tag Tuesday, which means I am back on my bullshit, which means I am going to be doing a tag. Now, absolutely nobody tagged me on this one. This is one that I just wanted to do because I feel kind of cranky today. I'm hot, I'm sweaty, I need to cut my hair, but I can't because I don't want to die and I am miserable. So this tag really plays into my mood right now, and I'm gonna link down to the original below. Also, I've seen a bunch of people do this tag and be like, oh my god, I'm gonna get cancelled. And a couple of weeks ago, I actually told all my friends that their favorite romantic hero, Mr. Darcy, sucks. So I don't even have any friends to cancel me anymore, so I am now living a life free of fear. Welcome to my anti-TBR tag. Number 1, a popular book everyone loves that you have no interest in reading. Okay, truthfully, I've been going through BookTube and commenting on other people's videos and saying things like, oh my god, this sounds very interesting. Oh, you've given me a lot to think about. And it's not one particular book, it's actually the work of this one author called Riley Sagar. I think that's how you pronounce her name. And you know what? It's not even that I hate what it sounds like or that I haven't checked out the blurbs of her books. They sound fine. I just feel like I have read books of the exact same description for a number of years in my early 20s, and I have got it out of my system, and I can appreciate that she's not the same author that I was reading back in those days, but I still don't want to read her books. They don't sound bad at all, but you know, I've just got that type of book out of my system, at least for now. Who knows, like 20 years from now, I'll probably pick up one of her books and be like, oh my god, I can't believe that I didn't read this back when all my friends were raving about it. And then you can all turn to me and say, I told you so. Number 2, a classic book or author that you have no interest in reading. So coming from a culture that was so affected by colonialism, and in particular British colonialism, there was a great emphasis placed in my childhood about reading quote-unquote good books. And by good books, as I've said before, what is generally meant are the classics or the canon of British literature. So in that sense, I don't think there are a lot of classic books that I haven't read, because when you're a child and you like to read and you live in India, a very easy gift idea for birthdays and Christmases and whatnot is for adults to just go in and buy, I don't know, Dickens or something. In fact, I remember being so mad at my mom once because I was so sick that I couldn't get out of bed, and I asked my mom to get me something to read, and I specifically told her that I wanted, do you remember those Nancy Drew, not Tom Hardy, what is it? The Hardy Boys? And they had this sort of collaboration series. I think they were called like Super Mysteries or something. Super something. And I wanted one of those books. And my mother came back with The Count of Monte Cristo and The Scarlet Pimpernel. I mean, I love those stories and I absolutely love those books, but Mom, I wanted to read a Nancy Drew mystery. Anyway, so basically what I'm saying is it's a little hard for me to turn up my nose at classic books because I've probably read most of them, but there are several American classics that I haven't read because India is such a British-focused country when it comes to literature. So the book that I haven't read is Tom Wolfe's Bonfire of the Vanities, which is a modern classic rather than an older one, and I have not read it. I do not wish to read it. I will not read it. Oh, and another book that I haven't read, are you ready? Catcher in the Rye. Never read it. Never gonna. An author whose books you have no interest in reading. Henry Miller. This is based on absolutely nothing. I have literally never read a single word written by Henry Miller. I know who he is. I know the gossip. I have read other people write about Henry Miller. I understand that his was one of the most significant voices of his era. I just don't want to read him. A problematic author whose books you have no interest in reading. Well, obviously, it has to be she who cannot be named, the great, big, problematic whale of our times. But to be honest, the last thing that I was reading by her was the Cormoran Strike novels, and I'd read, I think, the first 3, and by the middle of the 3rd book, I was pretty much done. And I only stuck with the first 2 because, well, the first was actually okay, I think. The second one was less okay, and then by the time I got to the 3rd one, it was just flat out bad. And I have a high tolerance for bad literature, and I will read literally anything, and it just wasn't good. I didn't like the way the characters were being developed, I didn't like the mysteries, I didn't like anything about it, to be honest. So it's not really that big of a sacrifice as such, like, oh no, I hate you and I hate what you're doing to vulnerable people around the world, so I will never read you again. I mean, yes, okay, sure, yes, that too, but also, these are just bad books. I don't want to read them anyway. I also tried A Casual Vacancy, and I DNF'd about 10% of the way in, so no. An author you have read a couple of books from and have decided that their books are not for you. The person that I'm going to go with is Steven Erikson, who wrote Malazan, Book of the Fallen. Is it Book of the Fallen? House of the Fallen. This one. I read the first couple of books and I really couldn't get into it. Like, the world wasn't keeping my attention. I didn't want to give up too fast because I know a lot of my fans are really into it. So I really gave it a good go, and I read the first book and I read the second book and I quit. A genre you have no interest in, or a genre you tried to get into and couldn't. I have an answer for both, so I'll separate them. The genre that I have no interest in is self-help. I'm usually very flippant when I say why I don't like self-help books, but honestly, I understand why they can be of help to people and why people turn to them. And I have had the impulse myself, but I often find that unless it is a person who has very specific knowledge about a certain topic, most of these books seem to be part of a marketing exercise. So, it's like you read this book, then you watch the show, then you buy the DVD, and then there is a seminar that you can attend, and there's a certification course, and then, it just sort of like builds into a scheme in which you need to participate to keep going. And I just have very strong opinions about things like that, and also a lot of the science adjacent ones, especially in terms of mental health and dieting and stuff like that, and exercise. A lot of that just sounds like quackery to me, so I just don't get into it. But I don't judge people for looking for things like that because, like I said, I do understand the impulse, but that genre is not for me. Meanwhile, a genre that I tried to get into but couldn't would be horror, I think. But I've come to realize over these months on BookTube that there's a very elastic understanding of what horror is, like much more than I have ever actually devoted my time or energy to understanding before. And it's primarily due to my wonderful friends such as Lady Jane Books, who talk about such a varied kind of horror that I have started rethinking about my preferences. So I think I'm gonna try and see if I can read some more things, and things that I might already enjoy but don't really classify as horror. Like, I know a couple of people asked me if Gideon the Ninth was horror, and I didn't think so, but I guess it is. Like, I've seen a lot of people refer to it as such, so sure. And then Potato Agrarian was talking about Rebecca as horror, and I've never thought about Rebecca as horror. And then I thought about it and I was like, oh, I see where she's coming from. These are the kind of things that I hoped would happen when I got on BookTube, and I'm so delighted when it happens. But also, I guess this means that I'm saying that in this anti-TBR video, I have found something that might potentially go in my TBR. So it's the pandemic. Everything is allowed. A book you have bought but will never read. I am a compulsive buyer of books, so this is basically like a good 10% or so of the books that I own. I just buy things and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll read this, and then never. But usually I try and convince myself that, oh yeah, I'll, get around to it. But there are a couple of books that I know I will never read. And one of them is called Unto This Lost. And it's a book of essays that was written in the 19th century. And it's a work of socio-economic philosophy, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. And I bought it because it was incredibly influential for Gandhi when he was living in South Africa, because the thrust of this essay and the others in the collection is that it is possible for human beings to live in a society that is propelled towards success and profit through actions rooted in a Christian morality. And if you think that sounds weird because Gandhi was such a public Hindu, all I can say is that you clearly don't know Gandhi well enough. Honestly, this book just sounds like something that would just make my head explode with rage, and I don't know why I decided I just had to own it just because it had an impact upon Gandhi of all people. But that's how my brain worked at the time, and that's why I own it, and that's why I'll never read it. A series you have no interest in reading, or a series you have started and DNF'd. I am going to go with perhaps the most uncontroversial, non-controversial pick of the lot, which would be Terry Goodkind's Sword of Truth series. I don't like the man, but I really don't like his books. I'm sorry if you grew up loving them. I don't know how to tell you this, but they suck. You know what? I made it really far into the series. In fact, I actually have the books right there in my bookshelf, and I think I have like about 6 or 7 of them, and I read a couple more from the library. So I got pretty far into the series, and it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And this was before I had formulated my DNF strategy, so I didn't really know that I could just quit. And then I figured it out and I quit, and my life has been amazing ever since. A new release that you have no interest in reading. It has to be Rodham by Curtis Sittenfeld. For those of you who don't know, this is an alternative reimagining of Hillary Clinton's life. And in this one, she just makes better choices all around, and it pays off for her, I assume. But I give a lot of credit to Hillary Clinton for everything that she has done and experienced in life. But first of all, I don't want to read a book about her life, because I feel like we have all read way too much about her life already, to a point that is intrusive and disgusting. But also, I really, really, really dislike the work of Sittenfeld. She's 100% one of those writers where I'm just like, is she just super well networked? Like, how does she keep publishing these books and getting them reviewed in the New York Times and stuff? They're always so annoying, and they have this voice and this tone to them that is just grating to me. And I don't enjoy them at all. I have no idea why she's as popular as she is. And I don't want to read any more books written by her, whether it's about Hillary Clinton or anything else. I'm done. Right, so that was my anti-TBR tag, and it was the most fun that I've had all week. And now I actually have a few people that I'd like to tag. And of course, as usual, if this is something that you find interesting, then go ahead and take the tag away, and I'd love to see your answers. even if it's in my comments. Thanks for watching. For more videos, please hit the subscribe button.